Well, all right. We got to talk about the Kansas City Chiefs, let's just be honest, the league has revolved around these past 7 years at this point since Mahomes has gotten there. I guess it kind of revolved on the Patriots right when Mahomes got there, but very quickly it has become Mahomes' league and come to Chiefs league. And hey, Mahomes is one player. There are other reasons the Chiefs have had success. Part of that has been nailing the drafts over the years. So let's talk about this draft. Did they do it again? Well, first I have to explain the chart. What you see next to me is first when the player was selected, then the player name, the player position, and finally where that player was projected to go according to the consensus big board. First, Josh Simmons, who was projected to be a late first rounder and was, but he was the last pick of the first round. So Chiefs get a little bit of a, according to that, slightly, getting a better prospect than was expected available at 32. Josh Simmons, a guy who, he's an interesting player. So, for me, I do wonder a little bit what the Chiefs are going to do at the guard position. I think that, I had told my podcast co-host Kyle to report that they were maybe feeling good about trying Sumatea at guard. And he kind of said, yeah, there's no way they're doing that. They're going to draft a guard. Josh Simmons isn't a guard. He's a tackle and should be a pretty good pass blocking tackle. I don't know if he's going to be like an elite franchise left tackle, but should be a pretty solid pass blocking tackle there. Do you have Jalen Moore kick inside? What do you do here? That's interesting. But ultimately, they couldn't just go with Jalen Moore, a guy who's never been a starter in the NFL with so much on the line. Get another option on the table at the very least. That's what they decided to do. Then in the second round, pick 63, they draft Omar Norman-Lott, the interior defensive lineman, who I just think is going to be a really nice piece for the Chiefs. He is a guy who is a pass rush specialist on the inside through and through. You look at his, I know PFF grades aren't everyone's cup of tea, but you look at his run defense grade, it was around middle of the pack according to, of college players in general last year, not just, first round picks or draft picks in general, but just college players in general. Run defense, very average. Pass rush was one of the best in the league. So you have that. The pass rush win rate of 18.9. That's good for a edge rusher, let alone for a interior guy. So great analytics there. You can only have him out there for so many snaps. And at Tennessee, he had a career high of 235 snaps in a season. So that's the downside. But should be a pretty good player to rotate in, especially on third downs. They then drafted edge rusher Ashton Gillotte. Trying to pronounce all these names always gives me trouble. But he's a player from Louisville, an edge rusher who has great pass rush analytics as well and pretty good run defense analytics as well, which is nice. Now, part of why I think he was, he's projected to go 92nd, even though he goes 66th. Part of why I think he was projected to go a little bit later is because a bit of a weird body type. So 6'2", 270 pounds, that's weird, right? That's you don't have a lot of edge rushers who have that body type. And because of that, I think teams always get concerned about that stuff. Usually again, as the Billy Bean quote of "we're not selling jeans here." Ultimately, if you can play, you can play. But sometimes it does happen where, because you have this, unique body type like that, that matters. That means you might not be as quick if you were a little bit skinnier. But if you're a little bit skinnier with his height, then he could get pushed around. So he has a weird body type, but ultimately he won enough that I'm totally fine with taking a chance on him with pick 85. I kind of like this pick, to be honest. So yeah, I like that. Nohl Williams just feels like a perfect Spagnuolo corner, physical corner. Will help out in run defense. We'll play that kind of stuff. So I think good in man coverage, which is what Spagnuolo wants. So again, Steve Spagnuolo the Chiefs seemingly consistently get these corners that no one's ever heard of, and then 3 years from now, 4 years, I guess 4 years from now, are getting a big deal somewhere else, or at least are big contributors on Super Bowl winning teams. I think Nohl Williams could end up being one of those guys. We'll see. Maybe that'll be a clip that ages well at some point, because I could see it happening. They then drafted Jalen Royals here with pick 133, who's a guy who I gotta just be honest, I like, and I'm surprised he fell this far. Now, he was projected to go 76th, he goes 133rd, and he is someone who, again, I could see just being like a perfect Chiefs player. He is not a freak athlete, and they usually like freak athletes, or at least guys of freak speed. That's kind of the one difference. But could he fit that Juju Smith-Schuster role of just being a really good route runner who knows how to run this system well? I could easily see something like that happening. I think he's going to be a good player for them, and I think teams are going to feel a little silly when they see him play that didn't draft him when they had an opportunity to. So then a couple of other interesting players, and again, more guys that were projected to go earlier. And listen, while it doesn't always work out, like more often than not, you want guys who are on that side of it, right? Guys who are projected to go earlier that fall. You want to be drafting more of those guys than the other way around, drafting guys who aren't supposed to go there yet. Jeffrey Bassa, a linebacker who used to play safety, so he's a bit undersized, you could say, although he definitely used his physicality well. That was actually one of his strengths, was physicality in college. Of course, the question you have to ask is, will that translate to the next level when you go up against bigger guys? If you're a smaller, physical linebacker, that's kind of the concern right there. So we could see, we'll have to see what happens there. But an interesting player nonetheless. And then Brashad Smith, a running back here who, the Chiefs have kind of, since the Clyde Edwards-Helaire thing didn't work out, they've kind of said, we don't need to go out and get a great running back. We have a good interior, even though it won't be as good this year because Joe Thuney's gone, but they have a good interior. Kareem Hunt was pretty solid last year, who they signed off the street, but they're going out and they're getting Brashad Smith, a running back who was, really good last year for SMU, quite frankly. So again, I don't fully get why he fell so much. I'm assuming it's just he's listed at 5'10", 195. Okay, that's why he fell, right? That's the issue, is the measurables. But ultimately, sometimes you just got to get good players. So I think for pick 228, it's a bit of a steal. So yeah, ultimately, for the Kansas City Chiefs, I just think they did really good. I don't know if there's one pick in particular I'm like, that's an amazing pick. But when you look at the compilation of all of the picks, it feels really good. And honestly, that's kind of how the Chiefs have drafted over the years. Even if the past couple drafts haven't been elite, although they still have had good picks in both of them, Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice. But ultimately, when they had that, historic draft after they traded Tyreek Hill and got a bunch of good players, it was something very similar to this, I thought, of just let's get, 5 guys who are going to end up contributing to our roster next year and for the next 4 years on a cheap deal. You do that allows you to, while paying Mahomes and paying Chris Jones and paying Travis Kelce, to still be competitive. So, yeah, sorry, Chiefs haters, but I think the Chiefs knocked this one out of the park. But that's what I think. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.